Good evening and welcome to the Late Night Business. My name is Ian Dennis, and as always, each and every week we have a very interesting show lined up. Today's show is literally a continuation from the first part we were having with Francisca, who's the CEO of Fava, and it's quite an interesting story about the exposure she had in the corporate world, how exactly this particular transition got to be, and you're going to be finding out about that in a few. But I also want to remind you that you're here at the Capital Club, the place you need to be as an entrepreneur, because at the Capital Club there's a huge array of amenities you can be exposed to once you're a member. Not only can you do events here, you can actually do your meetings here, you can entertain your guests here, and also more importantly, you can actually keep your health on check here. There's a spa, there's the gym that can literally be a part of your workout. I also want to mention a huge thank you to Lugo Collection, who've actually dressed me up. You can see I look so sharp, right? So it literally matches my mind. My mind is sharp, my dress is sharp, so everything is all sharp. Anyway, look at me praising myself. But anyway, Francisca, from the conversation you're having on from last week, it's about how you transitioned from the corporate world into now entrepreneurship. You'd worked in the corporate world for quite a while, and you got that exposure. And you mentioned that early on you got that particular inspiration on your flight to literally start Fava. So just take us through that particular process of now turning this inspiration into this idea, into becoming a product and making that transition.
Yeah, after the flight, when I came back, I told you previously that I had registered the company.
Yes.
I set up the logo, and then so we moved on. I moved on to now having the website being set up just in faith.
Yeah.
So now I have the technological part of it.
Yeah.
Even payment systems were in place.
Everything would put everything into place
I
before
was
the
ready.
business literally started.
Before the
Yeah.
business,
Yeah.
because I did not want teething issues
Yeah.
to be too much to handle.
Yeah.
So we already had a payment processor, card payment processor in place. We actually even prepared ourselves for Bitcoin.
Oh, everything you're ready for the next future. Oh, because Bitcoin was actually becoming a thing then. Yeah.
We're future-proofing the business.
Yeah.
Then now I said, now what? We need the products.
Yeah.
So that's where now the travel started.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to start traveling to first of all, my first trip was just within East Africa. To find out, let's say, what do coffee growers do? What do cocoa beans growers do? And what are the seasons, the cycles, the challenges? Because as a business in agribusiness, you need to, basically the business is tied to seasons.
But why did you choose agribusiness? So he's a financial expert who wants to go into agribusiness.
Yes.
Yeah.
In my postgraduate, my research was in derivatives and commodities. So, and largely a lot of the commodities in the CBOTs, and the NYMEX and the London exchange are mostly agricultural. So you'd find soybeans, pig, cocoa, and all that. So now that's why I leveraged the connections to my family in Uganda. And so the road trip started. So you just have to go to northern Uganda, western, southern, near Congo. You have to learn, what works, what does not work, how do farmers feel. For example, you see like for cocoa in West Africa, you just can't approach like, let's say a Ghanaian cocoa farmer and say, give me your cocoa beans. You have to go to the cocoa board, which is basically for Ivory Coast and I think Ghana, and I'm not sure other participants countries. But you see for Congo and other markets, you'd find that it's just free. So it's just you and the farmer.
Yeah.
But these are things you have to iron out because also in some regions you'll find that there are co-ops, cooperatives who now do the price control and they also agree on the prices that need to be set up. So that's why I now I started doing the road show. So you just have to walk from here, travel from here. Then I came back to Kenya, also did extensive travels across counties, not all counties, but across counties to find out what are we strong in, what's this country strong. And that's how I actually discovered that there's coffee in Migori County.
Oh, there is?
Yeah, which is called Rongo coffee.
Yeah.
And it tastes so delicious, by the way. So I've come to discover so many hidden things that are within our counties that are yet to be brought out. So that was now the second, I think the third phase of setting up Fava Hub.
As you're doing that, you're also still in employment?
No, now
you decided to just
because
transition
the
completely.
corporate job was too demanding.
Yeah. So you decided now to switch and then now the research phase of it.
Yes, now do the research phase of it. Then after that, that's when now I started onboarding brands that I feel like identified with our values. because there are actually some products that, you know, we have an exclusion list at Fava Hub website. So we tell you, like, if you have a finished product, even if it's a cooking sauce, or even if it's, you know, cocoa powder, you know, because you have your pastry business, you can approach me for my cocoa powder, but maybe you want it to be in a natural state. So we have to reflect that someone's cocoa powder cannot have all these things. And then after that, where we found that there were gaps where like no one is participating in developing something that the market needs, from the profits we had, I would take that and now invest in people who can now do that for us, for example. So we zeroed in also on our star product, shea butter. And so we heavily invested in shea butter as well in Fava Hub. So there's some products we directly invest in the manufacturing of it. And then there's some we just get straight from the producer, no middleman. And then there are some that are just straight from now the farmer. You need the cocoa beans, you want to do whatever you want with it, we just sell it to you.
Interesting. Maybe for the audience who are actually watching it, what does Fava Hub involve themselves into? We've talked about different particular products. Maybe just in a nutshell, what exactly, for someone just listening to this, what does Fava Hub involve itself into?
Okay. First of all, our slogan is Africa Delivered Doorstep. So
Africa delivered to your doorstep. All right.
Yes. So normally what we want is to bring the African excellence to your doorstep. But we focus on natural or organic. So we have two phases to this. Number one, the raw material. So you want the tea to go in now, change it to your own value added product. We can give you that.
So you can buy raw raw products.
Yes, you want the green coffee beans that you can go and roast, we can give you. You want the cocoa beans, we can also sell that to you. You want moringa oil for your cosmetic business, we can provide that.
So you do the raw products and also processed.
Now also we support local producers. So for example, maybe you have, let's say, like a lotion, or you have, like, let's say, your finished jam, or you have your finished natural yogurt, or all that, retail ready rather. That one also we support. We buy from them and we also sell on our platform.
Interesting. You also have an e-commerce site. And there's always a complexity around e-commerce in terms of how you make it work. How have you managed to build the Fava Hub e-commerce site? How have you made it successful?
For the e-commerce, I think the first thing is the way I shared. I wanted to remove a lot of teething problems. So first thing we made sure was that the product we say is there. Secondly, the payment integration system. We're not only servicing Kenya, we're servicing clients from across the world. So we want that if, let's say, in your country, you can't pay with, let's say, Visa because it's been banned for some reason, you can use Diners Club to pay us. So also, what do you call it, tailor-made payment solutions. And then, of course, the e-wallet, M-Pesa. I mean, that's our national heritage in Kenya. So payment integration is also important. And then securitizing the website, making sure that the servers are in a safe place and that we host with a reputable company that will not disappear with your domain. I mean, we've had stories of people's domains disappearing. And then making sure that there's always someone at the end of that call, not a robot. So we had to also personalize our experience. For example, I'm not going to mention names, but let's say you call a certain company and your call is routed to Dubai and you're here in Kenya and you want to complain about your grocery shopping. Or you've called and it's an emergency, it's to do with your flight, or it's an airline company, and please hold while we wait for the next representative. And it's about your flight. It's about your flight, right? So we made sure that to build that trust is always someone at the end of that call. So we have a rule that, okay, we might not be able to pick your call like instantly. In some cases we do. But we can have peak seasons. In 2 hours, you can get a call, or even 3, or we can even text you. If you send us an email, you can get an email response within. So making sure that, as a customer, you feel like we're there and we can answer you.
What's the secret behind? Because when you start up an e-commerce, primarily is that the world has become one global village. But most of the time, most e-commerce platforms, they start off as just serving one particular niche or one particular country. But you've managed to grow it to around, I think, 19 countries that you're actually serving. What's the secret behind that in terms of just growing a particular platform whereby you're servicing, what's it called, different parts of the world? How is that possible? How have you made it possible?
If I tell my secret, I'll be out of business.
Give us a clue. Or how have you managed just to grow it?
You know, also the other component I did not share is integrating the right shipping partners. So for us, we're accessible by air. We can access you by air, land, or sea. So and so the right shipping partners help us to get to our customers on the other end of the ocean. Yeah. So that's basically part of the secret. Yeah.
Or being accessible, good customer service.
Good customer, being available.
Yeah.
Being available on the other side of the line, having the right trustworthy payment integrations, having a reputable hosting company, and also being, you know, having the right logistical partners who basically, actually for us, the thing is we can handle a logistic partner who does not compensate in case of, we've had very rare cases of parcel damage, very rare. In our distribution scale, it's like maybe in the lowest 1%, even less than. So we make sure that even that shipping company you're working with can reimburse you.
Oh, I get you. Getting the right shipping partners.
And we're normally we always try to be involved to make sure that they actually reimburse the client so that they can come back and repurchase the product.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Initially, the first point I actually got to know you, you were into essence.
Yeah.
And you've recently, as you've mentioned, you've evolved into having different particular products. Based on, what's it called, as an entrepreneur, at what point do you decide if you're going to introduce new products? How do you determine the evolution of a particular business?
Normally, it's demand driven, but it takes a lot of market study. So in our business, basically the one you were saying was L'Héritier.
Yes.
And also, let's say now Fava Hub. You get to study like what do clients want. We don't copy. Number one rule I have at our business is there's no copying. If it's worked for someone, it does not mean it will work for us.
That's the Kenyan thing. I see you doing successful, just copy paste.
It doesn't work because you do not know the vision behind that.
True.
So normally we first study the trends. So if we see like there's a product demand, a demand for a certain product, we begin to make sure that it's always there somehow. But then when you see that the uptake is actually quite there, we make sure that we have a surplus of it. And what we normally have a rule that, you know, basically once we've introduced a product, we can't annex it out. But also we don't want, you know, products just sitting there, like keeping the shelves warm. So what we do is if there's an underperformer, vis-a-vis, let's say, sales statistics, we just scrap it off because maybe it's not resonating with this kind of market. Because we will try and market that particular product a few times in between and also a bit aggressively. And actually, even in our website, we write about benefits of particular things. So if we see that through these efforts, it's still not making a difference, we scrap it out.
And what lifeline do you actually give it? How many, I will say, like, let's try these things for how long? Because also there's always that reason, probably it's not working now because maybe it's not the right time. Maybe let's say it's sheer budget, probably it's used maybe during the summer or the fall and all that stuff. How do you usually determine when to literally knock off a particular product from your list?
We normally take a year. If it's, let's say, a raw material, it's like a year. But you know, raw materials is a come and go thing. But now the ones that go on our, you know, we tend to sell, we give it 1 year. But if it's, let's say, a product that's made by a different supplier, and I told you we normally buy their stock, because for me I don't believe in having credit, we normally would reflect the sales statistics to that particular brand. We also study their marketing habits. We see like, how are they, like, because I normally feel like if you have a product out there the way you have your books, so from my experience, I would sell with passion, knowing that this is what puts food on my table and the table of those who we work with. So if we see that, let's say the marketing is far in between, there's, you know, some form of, you know, like a relaxed approach to being aggressive in marketing a brand or whatever, then we figure that, oh, maybe this brand is not interested in marketing their stuff. And they don't pay us to market them, you know, because once we buy, we just do our markup and that's it. So then we normally just discontinue. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And how hard is it making that decision? Because I know most entrepreneurs are always tied to a product, to your brand, and once you are trying into something, you want to hold on to it for so long. How do you literally just separate this love of trying to do this and trying to make it work, and just making that hard decision, I need to cut this out?
At first, I used to be very attached. I'd be like, no. I was in denial.
There's a vision.
No, you must sell this thing. I cannot go wrong with choices. No. But eventually, those attachments came to fade out. And maturity kicks in terms of business maturity. So for me these days, it's quite easy. We just do analysis and look at sales trends. We have our own trend lines. We see which one of these products is the top performer. How can we continue focusing on this one in marketing it? And then the low performers, have we tried to support it, breathe life through it? It's not working, scrap out. So it's normally, by the time like 3 months, we start trailing a particular product scope and see like, is this something that we're scrapping out in December or not? Yeah.
There's, I don't know, of risk, probably just, I can say probably the last decade, there's this, what's it called, trend that's coming up, organic, and primarily that's what you've concentrated on, just dealing with organic products. How do you separate what's organic, what's not organic? Because most of the people usually just brand everything as organic. Having been on the ground and you've having seen that and been exposed to all that, how do you know what's an organic product and what's not an organic product? What separates between the two?
Actually, let me tell you, organic has not been a trend for 10 years. Organic has been the trend since God put Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden. That was his intent, that we live off of things that are quite rich and natural and enjoy the nutrient-dense nature. Even if it's the steak of a cow, you're supposed to enjoy the flavor the way God intended it. So it's always been the intention, but I understand what you're saying. Having been in this market, when we started out, organic was not something that was prioritized in Kenya per se. But let's say like a market like United States, it was maturing. Actually, the curve was now maturing and peaking. So, and a lot of products were substitutability was actually quite high. So you find that there's water, but now there's water that's,
sparkling.
No, it's dug out from maybe a spring where monks used to pray.
There's always that.
Sorry. So
water
now,
from the mountains.
So now when we switched, when we had the small shop from the last time, when we first opened, people used to walk in saying, "Are you selling herbs? You're herbal." And some people would innocently, innocuously associate us with being herbalist, which we were not. And so the uptake right now has really shifted. So you're right. In the past 8 years, a lot of people are switching to organic and natural. I think also because I can't back this up, but maybe lifestyle diseases are also on the uprise. Now, how do we differentiate organic and natural? You see, for let's say markets like United States, they have the USDA, which has a lot of tough requirements and all that. Now, in Kenya, or the scene in let me say East Africa, it's different. So, for us, in the example of Uganda, we saw that the Ministry of Agriculture is quite tough on vanilla farmers.
Sorry.
And cocoa farmers. And one time we were with the Ministry of Agriculture on a trip, and they went and they were inspecting the fertilizers, pesticides that the farmers are actually using. And the farmers, they would ask them, so where do you store your things, your inputs, show us and stuff like that. Much to our shock, we did not find like sacks of some strange things. Now, organic certification in Kenya, there's a body certifying, but they're quite expensive. It's cost prohibitive. So you find that most brands that would make your normal jam, your coconut oil, they might find it cost prohibitive, but those coconuts are coming off of the trees of Kilifi. So there's also this classification that's you know, wait for it, it's called wild harvest.
Mm.
So you see, for baobab,
Yeah.
it grows for how many years? Hundreds.
Mm-hmm.
So who's going to be there to certify that it was organic?
Yeah,
The
no,
ancestors are now sleeping.
Yeah.
So there's also that criteria that we now use
Mm-hmm.
here in this place,
Mm.
wild harvest.
Mm.
Your moringa tree just grows wild.
Yeah.
But now when it comes to things like corn and vegetables, that's when now it becomes tricky.
So, because there's always that element.
There's always that
Yeah,
element.
yeah.
So I just still feel like the organic certification process should be cheaper, to be honest. It should be. So that more farmers can join in. And it's very easy to translate USDA standards or our own standards. I mean, so that no one says like, who thinks America is the greatest. We can make our own standards and have a certifying body and also manage the corruption that can come far in between.
Interesting.
So far, how it's classified, it's basically you just have to do farm visits and see where the trees are grown. And most of the trees normally do not require input from the get-go. Plant the seed, wait for the rainy season, and then see what happens. But the vegetables is where the red line is, and we've not yet ventured into that. We're yet to.
All right. And a question, because you've been now 7 years in business, what's it called? You've experienced different particular corporates. Just as a final thought, what do you think, or rather, what's that one lesson you'll share to any entrepreneur who's aspiring to literally go into business out of your experience?
Any entrepreneur wanting to go through business, into business, Ian, for me, I would say number one thing is don't make the mistake of going without God. You'll make a lot of mistakes. The Holy Spirit of the Sovereign Lord can guide you. He can whisper to your heart, sometimes even audibly, on the right direction to take. Sometimes also, he can guide you. Avoid that funding. I can grow you through bootstrapping. Or he can tell you, take you to the right destiny helpers who can help fund the business.
True.
Because why am I saying it's important to start a business with the Sovereign Lord? You can find a situation, and we've seen the situations, now it's like cycling itself in Kenya. People start very great business, then a lot of people come in and funding, which is a good thing and they mean well. Then as a visionary entrepreneur, you're replaced by a graduate from an Ivy League who has not been tropicalized to understand how the landscape works. So in the end, they will mess up. In the end, they will mess up, and then now your vision is dead, plus the funding. So that's the main cardinal thing I would tell an entrepreneur. Whatever idea you have, go to God and pray. And when you're about to start, start with Him, because only He can be with you end to end. Even in your tears, when it looks like you're failing, He will comfort you and tell you the right thing. Even when customers are not showing up, He will bring them. Even when you are failing in health, or maybe your personal finances or your psychology is breaking down, you're about to give up, only He can strengthen you.
Wow, interesting. Quite an interesting note to end it up, and I think that's the biggest lesson we can actually get from this. In all that you do, have God in it. Hope you've learned a thing or two from this particular conversation. Remember to check out Fava Hub across social media, across the e-commerce particular platform. As always, we're coming to you from the Capital Club, the place you need to be as an entrepreneur. And I'm dressed smartly by Logo Collection. My name is Ian Dennis. This has been the Late Night Business. Until next time, I'll see you right here on KTN.